Okay, now we're on question 6, which is 2015 number 3 originally. So here we have a table with how many ATMs out of 3 are working and the probability that each of those outcomes happens. What is the probability at least one ATM is working when the mall opens? You add up all of the numbers that are at least 1. So I add up the probabilities for those, and I got 0.85. Let's check the scoring guideline to see how this is scored. Essentially correct is if the probability is computed correctly with work shown. So you need to have your work and also your answer, and you get essentially correct. Partial if the correct answer is given with no work shown, or if appropriate work is shown but the answer is incorrect or missing. So if you showed the correct work and then somehow added it incorrectly, you still get partially correct. Part B asks, what is the expected value of the number of ATMs that are working when the mall opens? Remember, to do this, we take our X times our probability for each value and add them together like so. And yes, they got 1.73, I got 1.73. Let's see what the scoring guideline says. If the expected value is computed correctly with work shown. So make sure you always put work on questions like this. Same thing I imagine on this one, partially correct if the correct answer is given with no work, or if appropriate work is shown but the answer is incorrect or missing. Part C. What is the probability that all 3 ATMs are working when the mall opens, given that at least one ATM is working? So this is a conditional probability, given that at least one ATM is working. So that's the given, that goes on bottom. The and goes on top. All 3 are working and at least one is working. If all 3 are working, at least one is already working. So that part doesn't really matter here. So I just do the all 3 are working on top, because that applies to both categories. And then the and, or the given on bottom, which is that at least one works. So it's 0.85 on bottom. It's me 0.2824. They got 0.282, which is obviously the same thing. And let's see what it says. Essentially correct. The probability is computed correctly with work shown. Partially correct again. It's partially correct again if you did the answer with no work, or they gave you a partially correct if the numerator or denominator if you showed a conditional, like an and over given sort of thing, but one of those numbers was wrong and the other one was right, they also gave you partially correct. Or I imagine if you set it up correctly and somehow got the wrong answer. So part D, given that at least one ATM is working, would the expected value of the number of ATMs that are working be less than, equal to, or greater than the expected value from part B? So what I did was I calculated the new expected count. So eliminating the 0. So now we only have the 1, 2, and 3. But now our probabilities are conditional probabilities. So 0.21 over 0.85, 0.4 over 0.85, and 0.24 over 0.85. So I calculated the new expected count, and I got a number that was greater than my answer in part B. More than the previous, should have been 1.73 ATMs. Yeah, I don't know why I put 0.85 there. So let's see. They wrote out an explanation. Given that at least one ATM is working when the mall opens, the expected value of the number of ATMs would be greater than the expected value calculated in part B. By eliminating the possibility of 0 working ATMs, the probability for 1, 2, and 3 working ATMs all increase proportionally, so the expected value must increase. So they explained it in words, I explained it by doing calculations. Essentially correct if the response provides the correct answer greater than with a reasonable explanation based on the fact that x equals 0 is eliminated, the probabilities for 1, 2, and 3 all increase. So that's what they did. Or if the response provides the correct answer with a reasonable explanation based on the fact with x equals 0 eliminated, the balance point of the distribution increases. Or if the response provides correct answer and a conditional expected value is computed correctly with work shown. Okay, that's what I did. I did what the new one would be with work shown. I did make that minor mistake. So 2.04, that is what they got. So it is possible on this one that I could get a partially correct because of that. I hope they would still give me an essentially correct. On this, you add up all of your scores together with an E being worth 1 and a P being worth 0.5, an I obviously being worth 0. You add it up, that's 3.5 out of 4 for me. But they wouldn't actually give you 3.5 out of 4. They'll round it to a whole number based holistically on your problem. I think they would look at this and obviously see that I knew what I was doing. I just wrote down the wrong number here. So I think that they would round this up to a 4. But they could round it down to a 3 depending on how strict the grader is. So holistically, they would determine it. You can leave it as a 3.5 if you want, or 2.5, 1.5. But they would just realistically look at it. Was it a minor mistake or was it more of an understanding mistake? And they'll look holistically at the whole thing, not just that one part.